It's Ren from Spirits of Fashion. Welcome back to my channel. As you can probably guess, this is going to be quite a short video because still haven't gotten my voice back for over a week. So I missed last week's upload because I had no voice. So this is a step up. So I apologize for my wacky voice, but here I am to do a video for you, just a short one about the 1970s. I'm developing a new presentation for my audiences that will probably be entitled Boho to Disco because the 70s encompassed such a wide variety of styles. So I'll get into a lot more detail in a later video, but I just thought I'd give you just the nuts and bolts of it for now. Because my voice won't hold out much longer than that anyway. So the first piece I have is actually from the 60s, but I always like to transition from one decade to the next, and the pointed collar will be late 60s into the early 70s. We do see that dagger collar then too, but this is so typical 60s, partly because it's a mini dress and also because of the black and white op art style, sort of optical illusion style with the big wide belt. I love this piece, and this would definitely probably have worked very early 70s, but from the later 60s. So that's the first item. Second item is one I've shown before recently. This is a gunny sacks, and although it's from 1982 and was worn in a wedding by someone who I bought it from, it looks very much like the dresses from the 1970s that are gunny sacks, that were based sort of on old-fashioned designs, prairie dresses. Think about cottage core nowadays, so this could definitely be worn. But these dresses were not prevalent by gunny sacks, but this style was definitely prevalent in the 1970s. And I mentioned, I believe in my last video, that I wore a similar style in darker colors when I went to my sophomore hop, which I think was 1973. So very prevalent, that prairie style. Some people call it granny style dresses from this period. Next up is something that may look hideous to you. You may say, oh, gee, did you really wear that? Well, yes, this is a peasant style blouse with a matching skirt. So I will pull this up for you. So the peasant blouse was very popular in the late 60s and the early 70s, especially this paisley design really dates it as well. That was very popular during that period. It just has an elasticized neckline with a little tie to it and comes with a matching maxi skirt. Maxi skirts came along in the early 70s, even the late 60s, when the mini skirt had gotten so short that it couldn't get any shorter. So a couple of developments happened. One was the midi skirt, which was right around calf length, which no one really loved. And that became popular in the 80s. But back when they first started out, people preferred the mini skirt to that. But the maxi skirt became very popular in the early 70s especially. And this is a definite example of a perfect maxi skirt from that period that went with the blouse that I just showed you. Just basic nylon or polyester fabric. Doesn't have a label, so I'm assuming it was handmade. When we had home ec class, when I was in junior high and high school, we had to take home ec, and I was lousy at sewing and lousy at cooking. Still am. However, I had to make certain outfits, and I made a long, short sleeve, puffy sleeve, long floral maxi dress, peasant style. So I made that and wore it actually to one of the dances I went to in high school. So, oh, tough memories back then because I had so much trouble with it. But that is a maxi skirt set from the 70s. Another thing that came along right around 1970, 71 was a little development called hot pants. I always tell my audiences that when the mini skirts got so short that you couldn't really get them any shorter. Even with pantyhose, something was going to start showing. So what they finally did was designers made a pair of shorts by pretty much putting a crotch in the shortest miniskirt and calling it hot pants. They were very tight, they were very short, didn't leave much to the imagination. But the hot pants were often worn with a skirt over it that had a split down the middle so that you could see the hot pants underneath, but kind of gave a little bit more formal day or evening effect for that outfit. This is an example, but this is a full dress. And this was given to me by a very good friend of mine. And it is velvet and in the 70s colors, very typical browns, rusts, oranges, golds, and velvet, like I said, with very typical, because of the all of the different nationalities that were expressing themselves in dress, this sort of ethnic style became popular, especially in embroidery worn on the bottoms of jeans, or in this case on the collar, and going all the way down as a type of trim. And so it gave a different set of colors and some real sparkle. It has 4 buttons, velvet buttons, right in the center. And what that does is just allows for a little bit of modesty. Probably would have had something worn underneath because it's open pretty much here the whole way down. There is a hook and eye right about here. So I guess you didn't have to really wear anything over it or under it. But the 4 buttons would still allow for this wide opening here to show off the hot pants underneath. Even brides sometimes wore hot pants with a longer dress open over it. It was just a sign of the times. They didn't last long. They were very short trend around 1970, 1971. And then finally, before my voice disappears completely, I have a pair of pants. I myself wore a lot of these designs because I was of that age. And in right around 1970, 71, 72, 3, right around there, we got away from the hip huggers, which were popular in the 60s. Hip huggers is what you would call low rise today. But hip huggers were called hip huggers back then. And these were the high rise versions that came out in the late 60s, early 70s. And with just a snap button at the top, fantastic, very simple, no pockets in the back, but they have incredible embroidery in those fabulous 70s colors, golds, oranges, browns, cream colored, very nature inspired colors. I bought these many years ago at a vintage store in Providence, the owner of which has since closed the shop, but she is still a vendor in our shop. She's a good friend of mine, the shop we own, Nostalgia. And I tried these on and they just fit at the time. Now they don't, unfortunately, but I did get to wear them a couple of times for events, and they're in incredible condition considering, you know, I'm sure they were well worn by someone who really loved them. And I don't have, there is a tag, but there isn't a brand name. It's just one of the old cloth tags, says machine wash, warm, tumble dry, all of that, but there's nothing else in terms of branding. So that leads me, when I talk about my old store Nostalgia, I promised that I would get an ebook up for you, and I have done that. And it's a free ebook. It's not a long one, but it's just a journey into our development of our store, Nostalgia Antiques and Collectibles. And it is written by my husband. I've done a little editing with it, and I did get my guru, my website guru, to get it up on my website for you. And it is free, so I would recommend that you check it out. It's good for a chuckle. If nothing else, you get to meet many of the characters and friends that we made while we had the store for those 5 years. It's called Nostalgia, A Curious Journey, and I hope that you check it out and download it and love it. And I will put a link in the description so that you can go right to my website and just look at the top of the website, and along the different pages, the last one will say ebook. So just click on that. It'll take you right to it. So thank you so much for listening to my crazy voice today. Hope you enjoyed my short video about the 1970s. There will be more to come. And as always, remember, style never dies. Bye, everyone.